Try to remember that we cannot give what we don't have. You have to be number one for yourself so you can receive your needs, so you can do your mission in life. Otherwise, you will keep serving for the others all the time and you will have left less self-esteem, and this will make you a big problem later on. It's very important to be honest to yourself. If you cheat yourself, everyone else can cheat you. If you don't cheat yourself, no one can cheat you. You are the best who know what you like and what you don't like. You are the best who know what you can do and what you cannot do. You are the only one who know what you need and why. Try to remember that we cannot give what we don't have. You have to be number one for yourself so you can receive your needs, so you can do your mission in life. Otherwise, you will keep serving for the others all the time and you will have less self-esteem, and this will make you a big problem later on. It's very important to be honest to yourself. If you cheat yourself, everyone else can cheat you. If you don't cheat yourself, no one can cheat you. You are the best who know what you like and what you don't like. You are the best who know what you can do and what you cannot do. You are the only one who know what you need and why.
Hey everyone, so I am about to head into the office. Even as I'm saying that, I'm just like, ah. No, I like working. I don't know. It's been feeling off lately. This is my outfit for work. Check me out, check me out. I got y'all on a tripod. But yeah, just pretty basic slacks, oversized sweatshirt, hijab. Yeah, that's my go-to glasses. My recipe for oatmeal is undefeated, but it's very basic. After the oats have been like microwaved with water and that water is boiled away and everything, I pour in half a cup of sweetened applesauce, cinnamon, yeah, I think it's just cinnamon flavor, and then a splash of milk, and it's delicious, not too sweet. Cinnamon flavored oatmeal, the best. It's the best. The best. Let's try this again. Take two. Hopefully 2 out of 2, but you never know, honestly. Especially, I feel like I'm so out of practice I have zero practice with this kind of video and podcasting in general. But you know what? You gotta try to get good at something. So that's what I'm doing. But yeah. Hey guys, I'm back after literally what seems like years. It has been years back on YouTube. But also, the last time I was filming was like 7 months ago. And a lot has happened since then. I'm in a new space. I was in Santa Monica / Los Angeles before, and now I'm back in Dallas, Texas. And I'm just living life, trying to better myself, and actually trying to follow my dreams, which is a really great realization to have, or to be able to recenter myself in terms of recentering my aspirations, goals, and all of the things that I used to want to do back into my life, rather than sort of just following this path that I was on earlier, which is sort of just getting the job, graduating college, and ticking off those boxes, but not necessarily doing what I really wanted to do at the end of the day. So, this video is sort of me coming to that realization and how I sort of came to that realization. It's been a process. Like I mentioned, it's been more than 7 months since I last filmed, and like 5 months since I moved to Dallas. So your girl has been very quiet and very just to myself lately. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the burnout that I sort of felt in Los Angeles, and the burnout I was feeling in general, all around in all aspects of my life. And moving back to Dallas didn't necessarily correct that burnout, but it gave me the tools and resources that I needed to sort of reevaluate and recenter my life around me. And so hopefully more of y'all can do that, because I think it's so important. And I think we just don't necessarily focus enough on it. And so that's sort of where I'm at. If I'm ever looking down, it's because I'm looking at my iPad of notes, like I mentioned, just so I can sort of keep myself on track here and not ramble too much for y'all. But I recently listened to a clip on, I forgot where actually this clip was from, but it was an Egyptian man. And he was essentially stating a few different things that sort of, I had been getting little nuggets of this wisdom in the past few weeks. And then this one video sort of just had it all laid out there in normal words. But what I realized, what was happening to me this past year, is I was burnt out. But the specific reason that I was burnt out was because I was showing up so inauthentically to all these different spaces within my life. And so what do I mean by showing up inauthentically? For me, that meant sort of wearing a mask wherever I was in terms of how I appear to people, and really just focusing on making other people like me or seeming palatable to these different spaces. And eventually that resulted in me actually never showing up as myself. And as you can imagine, that can get very tiring. So tiring, in fact, that when I was alone, I started to have trouble finding myself again, because I had spent so long wearing the mask in these different situations that sort of became my new norm. But that's a really unhealthy norm because it's inauthentic to who I am. And I think a lot of us do that. It is a survival mechanism, and I think it's appropriate within means. So I know a lot of people who work corporate definitely wear a mask, showing up as a more professional version of themselves or what have you. The extreme of that where I was, I think falls into toxic shame though, which is something I've been learning a lot more about, and realizing how much of a role that toxic shame has played within my own life personally, in terms of hiding who I was and sort of disassociating from me and sort of just trying to please everyone else. So over time, that led to a pretty big disconnection between my true self, my thoughts, my opinions, what I thought mattered, and my goals. And the result of that was really just burnout. I was stuck. I knew in what I had wanted to do in the past and the things that used to interest me, but for the life of me, I really just couldn't find purpose or meaning in those things anymore because I had sort of decentered myself too much to the point where I was just a shell, I guess. It's kind of sad, I know, but it's the reality of things. And I think so many of us go through these different phases and we're just sort of too afraid to talk about them or too ashamed to mention it. But the reality of life in this world and just the way things work is that so many of us are much more similar than we think. And so there's not really, in a lot of cases, there's not a necessity for the sort of shame that I was carrying and to some extent still carry today. I'm actively learning how to get over this and better myself and grow in that way. But I think that we also have to realize that shame or our thoughts about how others think about us are all manufactured in our heads. In some cases, though, they're societally imposed. And so I think toxic shame may be more prevalent. This is my opinion, but I do think it's more prevalent in terms of like your demographic and whether your demographic is actively or your identity is actively attacked in public spaces. And so that's one thing. But generally, I think at our core, how we function, how we think, we're all pretty similar. And I think some people are just more, have a tougher challenge navigating and avoiding shame or toxic shame in that way because of the different things going on within our society. And this is very random, but one thing that just came to mind is like the Barbie movie, for instance. I think the main reason that we all fell in love with Barbie is because the main points of the movie or the main theme within the movie is sort of disconnecting from this preconceived sort of notion or idea or feelings of unworthiness and just sort of trying to fit within a particular box. And at the core of that, I think, is really toxic shame. In that instance, is very much so, I think, societally imposed. But at the core, the feelings were the same for all of us, right? Detaching from who we thought we ought to be and just truly being able to just be us. And so I think that that movie is sort of getting to the point of what I'm trying to say, which is that after all this time going through burnout, switching jobs, moving states, switching cities, I finally realized that I was never the problem to begin with. It was just sort of this habit or this thing that at some point in my life that I picked up, toxic shame, and it's no longer serving me. And so I realized that I needed to let go of that in order to continue to move forward within life. I am all over the place here, but I think that is the thing about starting over and starting something fresh is that it's just messy, I guess, but we'll get through it. A few things that I learned from the Egyptian man specifically, the video I mentioned earlier, and sort of summarizing what I've been coming to realization of over the past few months, is that he mentioned to prioritize your own needs and opinions. So you must prioritize your thoughts, your opinions, yourself, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And so you sort of have to be able to serve yourself in order to serve others and really, at the end of the day, meet your goals. Another thing he had mentioned that I've been sort of hearing over and over again in the past few months, whether in different situations at work or on social media while scrolling, which we all do it. I mentioned this is a growing phase for me, is that
really building self-esteem and confidence, or self-esteem and confidence, comes through repeated action and building these instances for yourself where you're learning to trust yourself, knowing that you can continue to show up for yourself in the ways that you want to. And self-esteem and confidence is really just building that repository of trust in yourself. And once you have that, you sort of have the confidence, have the self-esteem, because you have those prior experiences that sort of show yourself that you can do hard things. That's one of my favorite things actually in Solid Core. Direct quote from the coaches. They always say you can do hard things. And one of my favorite lessons from Solid Core is that you honestly do have to fail in order to grow, and that's okay. It's actually more than okay. It's just essential. Failure is essential in the sense that if you're not failing, you're not showing up. And if you're not showing up, that means you're not growing and you're not trying. And so I really love that at Solid Core to sort of lean into this idea that failure is something that should be celebrated and sought after. Because that really means that you're pushing yourself, you're pushing your limits, and you are getting stronger. And so the other thing sort of related to my previous points and also Solid Core is that you need to show up for yourself first. Solid Core was me doing that for myself in terms of just making sure that every day I start my day showing up for myself before I'm showing up for my corporate life, before I'm showing up for anyone else. I'm prioritizing and recentering myself in my day at the very start of the day. And that's something that I hadn't done for a long time, especially if you're particularly feeling burnt out or just down. I think we sort of lean into the very basics of life, just waking up and going to work or going to school, coming back home and not really doing much else, just doing really what you have to do in order to continue to live, survive, and function within the society. But that's not necessarily thriving, right? And so by making my days start with something that I wanted to do and that I was doing solely for myself, I think I was able to eventually sort of crawl out of the hole that I was in where I was just sort of doing things and living for other people and sort of to please other people and to show up as someone who is perfect, even though we're not perfect. None of us are. And so I don't know why I was so focused on portraying that to the world and everyone else when it's just not true and it's not authentic. So you have to show up for yourself in order to be able to show up for others. That is essentially what I'm saying there. Because you can't show up for others if you haven't first shown up for yourself. This next point is a big one. I think it's one that affected me so much more than I originally anticipated. And that is that by ignoring myself for so long in terms of just putting up these masks and presenting a version of myself that wasn't really truly and fully me, I became sort of a yes woman. I think this is easy to explain within the corporate sphere, but within various aspects of my life, right? I became more concerned with what others viewed me as or what others thought of me rather than what I, at the end of the day, thought of me and what I was doing and if I was pleased with the direction that I was heading. And I think a lot of us can relate to that specific feeling, and especially women, I think, because we tend to have more people-pleasing tendencies. But the issue with that is at the core of that, there is a lack of boundaries that you place for yourself or that you enforce for yourself. So what this can look like is not enforcing boundaries that you have in terms of your bandwidth in a corporate space, taking on extra projects that you know will take away from your energy to do the things that in your free time that you want to do or pursue your goals, your desires, your aspirations. So that's one case. Or for people with large groups of friends or like codependent friends, that could look like continuously not enforcing boundaries. For instance, for more entrepreneurial people, if you are continuously going out with your friends and saying yes to a lot of events, but not prioritizing your sort of work time on your entrepreneurial ventures, then that is a lack of boundaries in terms of protecting your space and your goals on the entrepreneurial side. So, yeah, I think all of that led to burnout, which led to isolation, which led to unhealthy self-regulation. And at the key, or at the core of all of these things, was a toxic level of shame. And I think a lot of us can relate to that, and we sort of just need to work through it. And really working through it is a journey, but it starts with recentering yourself and reintroducing yourself to you, if that makes sense. It might not, but we're here anyway. I'm also trying to figure it out. If I were to summarize my key learning here, it is that toxic shame, and you shouldn't be ashamed of having toxic shame, because we all have it. And it is something for most of us that was a reaction of our body to something that was threatening to us, and it was a means of self-preservation, most likely. And so there is no need to sort of beat yourself up about having done this or having adopted this mindset or this toxic trait. But in reality, it's just outlived its usefulness for you. And so you can allow yourself to let it go and sort of learn who you are again and learn how to thrive rather than surviving, because it became a crutch. And so confronting this is the part where I think a lot of us may get a bit more scared, because it requires vulnerability. And I think vulnerability is something that's really tough for a lot of us. I think Brené Brown puts it beautifully. And I'm going to look down at my notes so I don't misquote her. But Brené Brown stated that vulnerability is often the first thing we look for in others, and yet the last we wish to share about ourselves. And so it's interesting, right? Because I think in a lot of ways, we're attracted to vulnerability, often because when people are vulnerable, you actually see their true selves. And most often because we are so similar at our cores, we see ourselves reflected back to us in those moments of vulnerability from others. And it's really important in terms of making genuine connections and thriving within this world and within different spaces, to be able to do that for others, to be vulnerable, and to sort of reflect who we are and who other people are back at them. So this podcast, vlog, visual podcast, whatever you want to call it, it is the Founder's Journal, and it is me confronting this vulnerability by letting the world into my personal journal, depicting my thoughts, my learnings, my experiences, etc., in the pursuit of entrepreneurship and through the lens of entrepreneurship, I guess, in the pursuit of a successful company or business. And yeah, there'll be success, there'll be failure, but failure at the end of the day is a prerequisite of success. And so, yeah, this is me leaning in, I guess. Thanks, guys.
Try to remember that we cannot give what we don't have. You have to be number one for yourself so you can receive your needs, so you can do your mission in life. Otherwise, you will keep serving for the others all the time, and you will have less self-esteem, and this will make you a big problem later on. It's very important to be honest to yourself. If you cheat yourself, everyone else can cheat you. If you don't cheat yourself, no one can cheat you. You are the best who know what you like and what you don't like. You are the best who know what you can do and what you cannot do. You are the only one who know what you need and why.
Hi everyone, my name is Shamila, and this is the Founder's Journal. My Founder's Journal